Good afternoon, everyone. It is Monday, August the 16th, and as you can see, we'll be talking about Afghanistan. And before we begin, talk about Afghanistan, my own feelings, my own insights, and what I think is actually happening there, and how I feel it's really very, very tragic about the carnage that is happened to the country in the past, and what is happening now. In fact, it came to mind a story. I did church work. I'll use that word, church work, in Iran in 1973. And when I was there, the Christians there was a small Christian community there that were rejoicing that they were able to erect a church in the capital city of Kabul. And as soon as it was erected, I don't even know whether they were able to even have one worship service. The government came in and with a bulldozer and a crane and pulled it down. And shortly after that, in fact, I think they in those days they had a king. Anyways, there was a coup, and they had some type of military or instituted some type of republic. And of course, the history of Afghanistan has been chaotic with it. Also just a bit of background is that there have been three great nations that have tried to subdue Afghanistan. They've invaded and tried to impose what I would call at least some type of modernization and stability into the country. And all three have failed. The British tried it, I believe, in three Afghan wars in the 19th century. The Russians or the Soviets tried it in the 20th century, and of course the Americans tried it in the 21st century. And obviously, when we see what's happening, all these attempts failed. One of the reasons I think that it failed is that people do not understand much about Afghanistan. First of all, it's a tribal mountainous region, and the only thing that really holds it together is religion, and that is the religion of Islam. It is and the other thing too is I think you have to realize that Islam is not monolithic. Afghanistan is very, very tribalistic, and that there's really probably very little trust among other ethnic groups. So the only, like I say, the only thing that really holds it together is Islam, and particularly the Taliban version of Islam. But I want to read a definition of Islam from a former Muslim. He was actually a Islamic scholar in Islamic law, and I just want to read this for you, if I may, because I think it will put it into perspective exactly why the attempt by the U.S. government and and the British and the Russians failed. Islam cannot be defined only as a religion in the Western sense, or the word, or in the Western sense of the word. Neither can it be defined as a faith only, period. It is a whole encompassing system. First and foremost, it is a socio-political and socio-religious system. You need to remember that. As well as a socio-economic, socio-educational, legislative, judiciary, and military system. Again, and here's this one phrase is important, cloaked in religious terminology. You need to understand that it is first and foremost a political system cloaked in religious terminology. with regulations that govern every aspect of the lives of its adherents and the relationship among themselves and with others that are non-Muslims. And so we really need to grasp that. We think that, well, my Muslim neighbor, he goes to the mosque and he prays and doesn't eat pork, and we think that those are just religious things, but it's part of his very core, it's his very fiber, and he's governed by, although he may not realize it, by the Sharia, by the Islamic idea of jurisprudence. And again, when George Bush entered Afghanistan, he basically had two reasons. First of all, to end terrorism, because the Taliban by then were ruling the country, and they were using that as the terrorists were using Afghanistan as a jumping off place to conduct their terrorist activities. And the other thing, which I think was the great mistake, was that the Afghans would embrace Western liberal democracy, and when I use the word liberal, I'm using the word liberal in the classic sense of the idea of the individual rights of or the human rights of the individual. That is totally unknown and foreign to Islamic culture as a whole, and you don't see. They despise us for it. They have a view of the West where we're, I think, overpaid, oversexed, and over here or with them. When I was in Iran, I remember even with the modernization of Islam, Muslims thought that I was okay. They wanted to look at my Playboy magazine. That's what you got. I want to see your Playboy magazine. We want to, and so there's that mindset that unfortunately they have of Western society, and so they're going to reject that. Western foreign policy really fails to understand the nature of what Islam is. It is, again, it is not just a religious system. It is a political system that is garbed in religious language. So now that the Afghan government, from my understanding, is that the Afghan army was one of the best equipped armies in that region of the world, billions of dollars in equipment, and they refused to fight. Well, why? They refused to fight because their true allegiance was probably with the Taliban. The Taliban reflected their ideas and what they truly thought. And what are we going to see? Well, first of all, I think that one of my posts I posted basically is that, make no mistake, the Taliban reflects a version of Islam. They're Muslims. They're Islamist, and they're Muslims, and there's no getting around that. And don't let people tell you in the West that this is not the real Islam. It is. It is the real Islam. It may not be the Islam that they necessarily adhere to, but it is the real Islam. And of course, Islam is not monolithic, so they have an interpretation on how they're going to work out the Sharia. Well, what does it mean for the Afghani people? Well, like I say, one person, when I made my comment, said, well, peace and stability will return to the country. Well, to some degree, he's correct. peace and stability will return to the country, provided you adhere to their view of Islam. So, if you're a woman, well, a woman will have rights under the Taliban, as they define rights. That means that you will not be allowed to go outside without a male escort. Your opportunities for education will be limited. If you are educated, it certainly will not be with any men. You are going to be, the women will be restricted with that. If you are a non-Muslim, you will be paying the jizya. And if you are a hypocrite, you're going to have it rough. The hypocrites are those who basically do not interpret Islam the way that the way the Taliban does. If you're a kafir, you're going to get killed. If you're a Christian and they find out, you'll probably get killed. They're going to have laws of apostasy and all these things that are going in Afghanistan. Now, I personally think that the United States needed to pull out of Afghanistan. Unfortunately, the way they've done it has been a fiasco. Even under President Trump, whether you love him or hate him, that's beside the point. Seem to have had a plan on how they were going to withdraw through a negotiated settlement, and that there needed to be an understanding that if you're going to pull out, you're going to leave our people alone. You're going to allow us to take other people with us. And I think that there needs to be a clear understanding that if we find out that you're harboring terrorists, that you're going to pay, and you're going to pay big time for it. We need to protect our own citizens regarding that. But again, and I've said it a couple times now, is you need to understand that Islam is not a religion of peace. It is a religion, and I'll probably get in trouble for this by some, it is a religion of conquest. They want to spread Islam. Some Muslims will do it peacefully. They'll invite me to accept Islam. Fine. But these guys don't seem like they are terribly interested in that. I think that you're going to see again a rise in some type of terrorist activities throughout the world, and it will be done in the name of Allah regarding that. Anyways, these are just some of my thoughts on it. Again, we need to, I think in closing, first of all, we'd like to, you need to be in prayer for the very small and fragile Christian community in Afghanistan. We need to pray that throughout all this, that they will remain faithful. And I think we need to think of ways of proclaiming the gospel to Afghanis here, especially in the West, where we still have the freedom to preach Christ, and pray that the Lord would open, hearts and eyes to receive the gospel. As far as getting the gospel into Afghanistan, it is highly unlikely that we can use traditional means, even as foreign aid workers. Don't know whether that necessarily is a good strategy at this point in time. But if you can think of a way of doing it, and go ahead. But I do think that if you have, especially on social media, if you have contacts with people who are Afghanis, that you can minister to them through that. For that. Anyways, before I close, I would like to ask you to hit the like and subscribe button, and share this video with your friends. I'm still trying to get my subscriptions up and my readers up. And anyways, thank you for watching. Have a great day, and may God bless.